morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from worldwide. I'm Sterling. It's great to have you back on the channel. This show's being recorded for Sunday, August 27th, 2023. As always, these shows are provided for entertainment purposes only. So all the information I share with you comes directly real time through my guides, angels, extended spiritual counsel, ETs, famous people from history. So for entertainment purposes only. For those who need to reach me, just go to sterlingpsychicmedium.com. Look for the Book a Session tab. Very straightforward from there. I believe my office opened up some dates now in November and December, so those are available for booking. And as always, just remember to like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. All those things really help the channel. And best of all, it's all free, no charge. So today, I thought we'd go through a top countdown as we always do. We had, I think, 500 questions nearly on the community board from this week. My wife goes through them, does select questions that she feels will be the most helpful, and then I go through them real time for you here on the show. So I think today we had 48 questions in the countdown. So with no further ado, let's get going on the top 48 countdown. 48. Will Amendment 14, Section 3 prevent 45's name from being on one or more state ballots? If the states do this, will it be a long legal fight? I do see a handful, meaning 3-4 states trying to not include 45's name on the ballot. It looks like it does get challenged in the courts, and then the states end up having to put 45's name on the ballot. Looks like it goes through a very fast kind of legal process. The Supreme Court may be involved in this one, and then 45's name will still appear on the ballot. 47. According to Russian media, Wagner chief Prigozhin is listed to be among passengers in a plane crash north of Moscow. Why did the plane crash? And was Prigozhin really killed? What can it tell us about this event? And will the Wagner group retaliate? Yes, I get 100%. Prigozhin was on the plane. And yes, this is going to be the start of a lot of pushback from the Wagner group and many people in the Russian population. For whatever reason, Prigozhin was worshipped, admired by many in the Russian population, and this is going to start to accelerate the departure of Putin. 46. Hi, Sterling and team. The Georgia judge gave 45 a gag order in his arraignment rules, stating if he breaks the rules, he could be put in jail. Will 45 break the rules, and will the judge put him in jail? I do get that 45 is going to break the rule. I don't see jail, but I see fines, and I see an acceleration of the court case coming to trial. So don't see jail, but I do see penalties kind of in a different way. 45, hi, Sterling and team. Will we lose any congressional members due to the fallout from corruption during and after the administration of 45? Yeah, I see more than a dozen members of Congress being removed from their position in 12 to 18 months here due to a lot of fallout from the indictments and the trials going on here with 45. Yeah, I do see they'll be forced to resign. 44, Kenneth Chesebro, the author of the fake elector memo that is the smoking gun in a Georgia RICO case, has filed a motion for a speedy trial. Under Georgia law that requires trial by the end of October, DA Fani Willis has said she intends to try all 19 defendants together. What will be the effect of Chesebro's motion be? I get an accelerated trial even for a couple of the indicted here. So not just Kenneth Chesebro, but also the woman, and looks like a third person, even a fourth person is going to try to get it accelerated. So looks like there'll be a carve out here from a number of people to get an accelerated trial. And that looks like the trial that includes 45 will be out towards the beginning of the year, beginning of the new year. 43, hi, Sterling and team. Last year, during the Sandy Hook trial against Alex Jones, the Sandy Hook lawyer divulged that Alex Jones' lawyers accidentally forwarded 2 years of his text messages to them. Jones' messages were then turned over to the January 6th committee by the Sandy Hook attorneys. Was Jones the go-between for the militia groups and 45 or anyone else in the White House? I do see he had a lot of back-end discussions with 45 and 45's team. I don't see a lot of involvement with militia groups other than what was communicated like through his shows. So sometimes there's a kind of a dog whistle, if you will, going out on shows. But I see a lot of Alex Jones communication behind the scenes with 45 and his team. That's absolutely for entertainment purposes only. 42, love your show, and I have a question about a tourist attraction and archaeological site in Salem called America's Stonehenge. It's a small warren of rock walls and rooms held together without mortar. Some claim this might be a 4,000-year-old Native American settlement. Others note how different it is from other Native American settlements and suggest it's an outpost built by the Viking explorers who reached what they called Vineland or Vineland. Skeptics say it's all just a 19th century farmer's hoax. Can you guys confirm who built the stonework at this site? I get this was built like in the 19th century, so not 4,000 years ago. So somewhat recently. I don't know if I call it a hoax, but looks like it was Native Americans living around that time, 19th century. That's what they're showing me. So not a 4,000-year-old monument, no. 41, wildfires are ravaging large parts of Canada. What will our country look like in 5 to 10 years from now? Will the tree canopy recover? Well, the fires are going to be ongoing for quite some time. The major fires that we're seeing right now, another 6 to 12 months around Canada. And it looks like the trees or the tree canopies will be reforested. I see millions and millions of trees being replanted. The recovery for the trees will take another 1 to 2 decades, 10 to 20 years. But I do see millions and millions of trees being planted. So it's going to take a while to recover, but Canada will recover. 40, high sterling. It feels like an employer's market right now with cost cutting and layoffs. When do you see it going back to a hot labor market again? Within 2 years, by mid-2025. 39, love this podcast. I was drumming yesterday and in a deep trance meditation when 2 very tall beings appeared, about 9 feet tall. They communicated with me telepathically. I asked them if they appeared in their firm to make me comfortable. They said yes, that they are more energy and I would not recognize them in their authentic form. What were these beings? These were several of your birth angels trying to communicate with you. Now, they are an energy form, but they show themselves like a body form. Some angels show themselves in translucent form, but still you can see a form. But these are your birth angels, absolutely. Okay, 38 in the countdown. Have only governments been able to contact and communicate with ETs? Or have other people also had the opportunity? If so, how far back was an unofficial channel established? Well, channels with extraterrestrials have been around for millions of years. Many on the planet can communicate with extraterrestrials. I do on a semi-regular basis as necessary, but they do communicate in a way that angels and guides communicate. They do show themselves as well. So, a number of individuals, if I always tell people, if part of your life path is involving extraterrestrials to solve major scientific problems, health, world peace, all this communication happens with a lot of individuals around the planet, not just governments. 37, will Prigozhin's military men retaliate against Putin, and will Prigozhin's death initiate movement to help end the war in Ukraine? Yes to all the above. I think we talked about this at the beginning of the show, but I do see this as now a big surge going ahead now that will start the decline of Putin, a big uprising in Russia among the population, and also a big uprising for the Wagner Group. So, in a way, for entertainment purposes only, Putin signed kind of a death warrant when he got involved in taking out Prigozhin. 36, high sterling. Will spirituality ever have a larger hold than organized religion? Yes, absolutely. Within 3 decades is all part of the big reset going on Earth here, 2020 to 2050. Spirituality will have a much stronger play in terms of how people can communicate beyond the veil with their angels and guides, understanding the truth and history. the role extraterrestrials play in history. All this will come to bear, which will then change the way organized religion is perceived, absolutely, and handled. 35, Sterling, will homelessness ever be significantly reduced in the U.S. nationwide so that it may become a thing of the past? Well, this is also on kind of a 3-decade trajectory. Now, big improvements will be made over the next number of years, 5 years, but it's going to take a while, a good 3 decades, for homeless to really be kind of be eradicated, because it has a lot to do with society norms, funding, training, healthcare, lots of elements involved in the homeless problem. But my team's telling me within 3 decades, it'll really be a thing of the past. That there'll be programs, facilities, ways of dealing with people that are involved in homeless programs to say, so it won't be the way it is, proliferated the way it is right now. 34. Hi, Sterling and team. Will the artificial intelligence ruling by a federal judge, AI-generated art is not copyrightable, help the writers and actors strike settle faster? Yes, absolutely. This came up in a ruling by a federal judge this past week, and my team on last Sunday's show was talking about some elements coming up regarding the SAG and the Writers Guild strike that was help start to accelerate a resolution to the strike. Now, we're not through it yet, but this is what my team was referring to, this recent federal ruling that AI-generated content will not be copyrightable will be a big help to moving towards handling AI and how AI is handled among the writers and so Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, writers and whatnot. Yeah, it's all coming. 33, thank you and your team for sharing your gifts. The orca, is it Tokate, aka Lolita, died last Friday after 53 years in captivity before she was able to be freed and placed back in where she belonged. Does she have a message for us humans? Respect all life and humanity, because animals and life and humanity are intrinsically connected. Stand in love, and I'm getting from her respect all love and life and animals, because we're all intrinsically connected. That's what I'm getting from her. 32, hi Sterling and team. It seems that more churches are losing members and conservatives want their power back. Will we lose our right to freedom from religion? No, no long-term threat, short-term threats, but within 10 years here, it looks like there's going to be a real firewall placed between a kind of a renewed separation between church and state. And some of that's going to come about through new tax laws for churches and religious organizations. But there's going to be a lot of widespread new legislation that's going to kind of firewall the difference between church and state. And you're also going to see this come into areas of government whereby groups that are heavily funded by, let's say, very conservative religious groups are now not going to be able to hide under or hide as well. So a lot of this is coming out in the public, a lot more transparency. 31, I'm not a practicing Catholic. I struggle sometimes because its teachings were ingrained in me since I was young. What do your guides think about churches and the Bible? I have a super religious brother who claims I'm going to hell. Well, first off, there is no hell. So we talk about that a lot of times. There is a life review when you go across. What's interesting about they're talking about the Bible here, the Bible was written by thousands of entities, and there's actually thousands of versions of the Bible around the world. So it's all subject to interpretation, but spirituality, supreme love in the universe, those are the guiding factors of all humanity. So I would tell anybody that, is looking at religion, religion has a lot of benefits for many people. It gives them a structure. But because you're looking at something that was interpreted over thousands of years by thousands of individuals with thousands of versions, you have to make sure that you're living in spirituality and standing in love. That's what it's all about. And there is no hell. 30, hi Sterling. I experienced the healer known as John of God 4 different trips and experienced mind-boggling events, love, and healings. A Netflix documentary is out about him where they acknowledge his history of miraculous healings. Now he is in prison, convicted of sexual abuse. There are other allegations like murders, raping young girls, and selling their babies, and worse. Is he guilty? I get he crossed the line many times in terms of what was appropriate or age appropriate. I'm not getting the full extent of a lot of the crimes as described here in the question, but I'm getting he crossed the line many times. So there is some truth and some validation. Also looks like local governments were trying to make things look worse than they were in order to kind of shut him down. So I don't know a lot about his history, but I'm getting crossing the line a number of times, but not as severe as what the public or the government's saying, and an effort by the government to shut him down. All a very unfortunate experience all the way around for him, the victims. So sending love and light and prayers out regarding anybody that's involved in that situation. 29, hi Sterling, thank you for all that you do. I'd like to ask about Ryo Tatsuki, the Japanese manga artist who predicted the March 11, 2011 earthquake in Japan in one of her books released in 1999. She is known to have made other predictions that have also come true, but the one that scares me the most is about July 5th, 2025, in which she predicted a tsunami will engulf a third of Japan that day. Do you see this actually happening? I see many other water events for Japan and some tsunami activity, but not one that's July 5th, 2025. Looks like it's further out to me. Now, my guides are actually saying there's going to be another water event sooner than that July 2025, but it's going to come in maybe half a mile onshore. And it's not going to engulf 1/3 of Japan, kind of a small percentage of Japan. So my team is saying that actual prediction is not accurate, but there are water events and some smaller kind of tsunami events, and it's not going to affect 1/3 of Japan, no. 28, Christopher Worrell, a member of the Proud Boys who was convicted in a bench trial on 7 charges, is MIA, missing in action. Where'd he go, and will they find him to face jail time? I get they're going to catch him very soon, like within days, weeks here, they're going to catch him. And it looks like he had tried to escape to another country. So somebody helped him try to get him out into Mexico or something here. So it looks like he tried to escape the country, but they're going to get him back in short order. 27, Sterling, will we be getting any reprieve anytime soon from forest fires? I'm in Western Canada, and I know they are pretty bad everywhere. Well, I think we were starting to talk about this earlier in the show, but the fires are going to be ongoing for another 10 to 12 months here around Canada before they really start to settle down. 26, Sterling, did you inherit your gift of receiving answers from your team from your parents? No, I didn't inherit them that I'm aware of. I know my mother was highly intuitive, and so never really talked about psychic or mediumship. Highly intuitive. I don't believe I directly inherited the gift directly from my parents. I think it came from many, many lifetimes, many, many reincarnations. So at least that's what my team has told me. 25, hello, Sterling. There are many rare cancers that are not curable to scientists because their genomics are not studied. Will those cancers be cured in the next few years? Will there be a catch-all cure for them? Well, we talk about this all the time. CRISPR technology, gene editing, Cas9 gene editing technology. Many cancers are being worked on right now, but the core of the cure for many diseases for humanity will be based in CRISPR technology. It's already ongoing right now. Every day that goes by, we're seeing developments of cures for different types of cancer. So yeah, the answer is yes. It's really this technology that's really going to make a lot of individuals much safer in the future from cancerous diseases. 24, hi Sterling and team. Will there ever be better protections against identity theft? With so many data breaches and millions of social security numbers and personal data being leaked, put on the dark web and used by nefarious people, it seems like so many Americans are left to fend for themselves and trying to guard against identity theft, whether it be credit, medical, etc. It causes so much anxiety. Do you ever see us being fully protected from these leaks, identity thefts in the future. I do, and this applies to people worldwide. So I do see within 5 years very strong blockchain technology. That's ledger technology that goes across millions of computers. It's kind of fundamentally behind digital currency and some Bitcoin technology. A lot of digital currencies are using blockchain technology. That's distributed ledger technology. Not to get too technical, but I do see within 5 years, a lot of blockchain technology will be used to enhance data protection, security of private information. Now, a lot of individuals' information is already out there. I'm sorry to tell you, where we are kind of in history right now. A lot of individuals have their private information out there. But going forward here, there are going to be much more stricter controls using blockchain technology. And we'll see that emerge with some regularity worldwide within 5 years. 23, how did Tafari Campbell, Obama's chef, die in 8 feet of water? Was a medical issue? So Tafari Campbell. Well, my team's telling me it was a stroke. So some sort of a medical event, looks like a stroke to me. Made him unconscious. And then from there was a drowning. I'm very sorry to say. He's doing just fine on the other side. As a matter of fact, I see him spending a lot of time with the Obama's family. The Obama family is very interesting. He's actually telling me he's spending a lot of time with the family. So it was a stroke and caught him off guard. 22, high Sterling and team. I know you've read this before, but I'm worried about Louis DeJoy messing with the 2024 election like he did with the 2020 election. Will the post office be able to get mail-in ballots delivered without interference this time around? I don't see any major problems with mail-in ballots this time, meaning functionally the ballots get out there, they get deployed, they get used. There's a tremendous amount of scrutiny on this next election coming up from many parties, many governments, even those watching the post office. So I don't see a lot of problems with mail-in ballots, even with DeJoy having somewhat engaged in the process. But it looks to me like a tremendous scrutiny on this next election. 21, high Sterling. Since extraterrestrials are wearing spacesuits, can you tell me if their eyes are really goggles? And if so, what do their eyes really look like? Well, yeah, a lot of extraterrestrials wear optical enhancements. Some of it's even camera technology around their eyes that enables them to see great distances and actually enables them to see things like infrared, ultraviolet, even X-ray. So the lens and camera technology that covers ET's eyes is very sophisticated. When you remove those goggles or those lenses, their eyes are very large in many cases. But the reason they're large is that they had to see in very low light environments, like around space for millions of years. So yeah, it is an optical lens technology, and their eyes look very similar underneath, but they're large only because they had to see in low light conditions. 20, high Sterling and team. Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the opposition party in Canada, refuses to get a top-level security clearance. Is there something that might come out that he wants to keep hidden, or he's just playing political games? I'm being told there's a history of working with a lot of offshore countries, a lot of offshore countries. And there are some financial dealings there that he doesn't want brought to bear into public. So yeah, there is something there that he wants to keep secret. Absolutely. Okay, 19 the countdown. I was wondering if the current education system in the UK will ever change. It disadvantages the average poor people and preserves the nobility class system in the UK. I get it is going to change, but it's like 20 years, a 2-decade process. And it looks like new technology comes to bear, which like levels the playing field for education. And as those get more highly educated, they change the system. So something coming here, it's about a 2-decade process, but I know it's been going on for decades and decades, a long time. So they're showing me about another 2 decades, it's going to change for the better. Be better balanced, they're telling me. 18, the Kentucky governor just announced a plan to increase Kindergarten through 12 teacher pay by 11%. Do you see a plan to also increase the pay of people working in higher education in Kentucky? I do. It almost looks like a similar increase, but by the year 2025 is what they're telling me. 17, hi Sterling and team. I feel like the word portal gets used with frequency, the frequency of Starbucks locations, and are often misnomers. Sterling, could you please provide some clarity about where they're most likely to be and any characteristics of them? Yeah. Portals are essentially, they are gateways. They're normally hundreds of feet tall, and they allow entities, extraterrestrials, a lot of even spiritual entities, to move back and forth to cover light years of time in seconds. So they're really gateways. People are not portals, and very, very seldom do portals ever end up in someone's home. I've seen some rare occasions where they do, but they're normally outside in areas where they could be frequented by lots of different types of entities, spiritual entities, extraterrestrials, and that includes spacecraft. One of the most famous ones, one of the largest ones around right now, is in Skinwalker Ranch in northern Utah. But anyway, they're very physical, and you can measure them. They have very physical properties that can be measured, electromagnetic properties. You can witness a lot of items, UAPs, UFOs moving in and out of them. But anyway, I think so. Hopefully that helps. Characteristically, they're quite large. They're found in outdoors. People are not portals. I hear that all the time. Sometimes people ask me, "Am I a portal?" That is, they'll ask me on their behalf, "Are they a portal?" So no. 16, will CRISPR technology help fight fat? In short, will there be medical help for those of us who are not diabetic or obese, but may have insulin resistance? Within about 10 years as well, 10 to 12 years, they're telling me there's going to be good CRISPR technology that will help the body from a gene standpoint handle obesity and the way calories are used and the way insulin is produced and managed in the body. Absolutely. 15. This week, Japan will begin releasing more than 1 million tons of treated radioactive water now stored at the disabled Fukushima nuclear power plant into the Pacific Ocean. It will take 30 years to release. What will be the environmental impact of this? And will it open the door for more dumping around the world? I don't get the effects are going to be catastrophic. So it looks like they're going to be mitigated as it's released out into the ocean. What I do see, unfortunately, is an economic effect for Japan in terms of like their fishing industry. So there'll be kind of the misnomer that a lot of the fishing that's going on in Japan, the fishing industry, will be contaminated. So, for a good year, 2 years here, it looks like there's going to be an economic impact on Japan's fishing industry, which is unfortunate. But in terms of the nuclear, the wastewater release, it doesn't look like it's catastrophic. And it looks like, to me, they're telling me in a number of years here, we're going to have new technology that will further degrade whatever the nuclear components are still left in the ocean water. So new technology coming for that as well. 14. Hello, Sterling. It seems Republican officials in Georgia are beginning a process to remove Fani Willis from her position. Will they succeed removing her, and will this affect the prosecution of 45? I don't see them officially removing her. Well, let me be clear here. I always see her being connected with the Georgia case. Now, it does look like they may try to put another lead prosecutor or lead DA in there, but for some reason, Fani Willis is always connected with a case. So all the work that's been done and her driving things behind the scenes and in front of the scenes look like she'll always be connected. So I do see a bit of a topsy-turvy connection here, where the Republicans are going to try to reduce her connection to the case. But it doesn't look like it's successful, and she still kind of drives the case, even though they might have somebody fronting the case. I hope that makes sense. Okay, 13 the countdown. Dear Sterling, elder care in the U.S. is woefully underserved, especially compared to Northern Europe. So many of us wake up one day to the realization that we have to quit our jobs to fully tend to our ailing parents, draining bank accounts, and sacrificing in unexpected ways. Will this country ever make things easier for the aged and their caretakers? I do see improved elder care programs being driven off of the new corporate minimum tax rate, the 15% corporate minimum tax rate that drives more revenues into the system. Looks like it's going to take a number of years here, a good 4 to 5 years here for the, let's say, the brunt effect to start to take hold. And then within about 10 years, could be as fast as 8 years, there's big programs to supplant elder care. So it means like facilities, new funding, ways that insurance company protections are expanded. I see a lot of programs coming in as the population ages. So a lot of this is happening here due to new funding sources coming in. But the full effect is more like 8 to 10 years out, they're showing me. 12, hi Sterling. My question is, as an architect, I do a lot of work with single family homes, additions, and new construction. Will housing prices decrease in the future? Yes, I see substantial price realignments, some of the prices coming down, but it's more like mid-2025 is what they're telling me. So it's not right away, but more like the middle of 2025. And they're just remind me as kind of the new administration gets into place. Looks like, well, they'll be in place, but looks like whatever programs are ongoing will start to really get traction as you get out towards mid-2025. 11, Lucy Letby, UK's most prolific serial killer of children, was recently sentenced to life without parole. Investigation was extensive, but evidence seemed largely circumstantial. Is she guilty? For entertainment purposes only, it looks like she is guilty of about half a dozen murders, I'm sorry to say, and even some other attempted murders. So it's looks like she definitely had a hand and is guilty. But it looks like somebody that is doing things for a reason, like trying to get notoriety or some sort of acknowledgement from other doctors, or maybe this is a love situation, an emotionally fragile person trying to get recognition or somebody that feels sorry for them. So unfortunately, it looks like she is guilty of what she's being accused of. Very sorry to say, saying a lot of love and light out to the families of those babies. It's an awful situation. 10. Hello, Sterling. How do we know when our dogs see a presence in the house versus when they are just being dogs, barking at dust? My elderly dog has recently started staring and barking into space when there's nothing there I can see or sense, and I wonder what or who it could be. You can cross-check this with animals. Animals are very perceptive to the other side. So if you see an animal staring into space, say in a location all the time, you actually can call out, ask your angels and guides to reach out and ask, who's here? Are you a family member? Are you a friend? If you get a cold chill, you'll get a validation from your team. So there's ways of kind of validating if your animals are actually seeing individuals, spirits from the other side. And very often they are. You see a lot of repetitive behavior of them staring in a certain area of the house. Normally, that's an angelic experience, it's an angel or guide, or a family member. 9, hi Sterling and team. Who will win the election in New Zealand on October 14th? Will the Progressive Labour Party stay in government, or will there be a turn to the right, an ultra-right to the Conservative National Party? Looks like the Labour Party will win, is what they're telling me. It'd be a very close election. It looks like the Labour Party will win. 8, hi Sterling. I've experienced very painful spousal betrayal in 2 marriages in my life. What is the spiritual lesson to being betrayed? And what are you supposed to learn from the infidelity? Well, these experiences are all about getting back to a place of self-love and taking back your personal power. So many times, if people end up in situations in life, marriage and divorce is a great example, and it's a repetitive lesson. If there's something about self-love and you managing your personal power that you're not taking control of, many times it comes from earlier childhood experiences, but it's always good to kind of learn what those traumas were all about. Get back to a place of healing where you acknowledge the lesson and then you're able to move through it, even help other people. So interesting enough, I always see my team when they talk about this, the betrayal is not always about what that individual is doing. It's what you did to welcome that situation into your life and say, not manage it. So hopefully that's helpful, whoever asked the question. 7, hi Sterling and team. On July 14, 2023, Mohammed Barakat opened fire on police at a minor traffic accident in Fargo, North Dakota. He killed one police officer and critically wounded two other officers and a bystander before being killed by another officer. His motivation is yet to be determined, other than he had been researching mass shootings and the street fair online. Can you please shed some light on what this motive was all about? Again, he was a lone wolf, but really someone with a psychotic condition. So I don't see him anchored to some sort of a larger gang affiliation or militia. It feels like somebody with a psychotic condition trying to make an impact on the world in a sick way. So unfortunately, that's my team is just saying, there's really not a lot else behind it, not alignment with another large organization or a real meaningful purpose. So again, I'm saying love and light and prayers out to all those affected by the situation. Hopefully, you're able to manage through the grief. 6, this is a question about Candida auris. Looks like auris, a strain of drug-resistant Candida. Do you see it becoming the next potential pandemic? If so, when would it start to affect communities and populations on a wide scale? I don't see this being a widespread problem, like affecting millions of people. It feels like it could eventually affect hundreds to thousands of people. Looks like scientists by the end of this year into next year are going to come up with a solution for this this type of candida. So it looks like it's not going to be a global pandemic or worldwide pandemic. And that my team's saying actually it's going to be under control by the beginning of next year or out into the middle of next year. So it's coming. There's a solution coming. Hi, Sterling. When my daughter was 2, she was very ill in a intensive care unit at Children's Hospital. One evening when we were walking to her room number 5, we passed another child in room number 1 that had blue lights flashing because critical care was required. We walked past quietly and respectfully saying a prayer for this child. As we walked by, I noticed a nun in the 1900s style habit sitting right outside the room. She was calm and smiled at me sweetly. I smiled in return. When we got to my daughter's room, my sister was then engulfed with the aroma of roses everywhere, yet no roses were in sight. Who was this lady, and where did the smell of roses come from? Well, these were birth angels sent over by that nun. That nun was an angel, actually an earth angel. And so these were angels, or your birth angels, coming across as a thank you for what you had, the prayer that was sent out. And, when you smell roses like that, that means you're clairsentient. So congratulations. That's a skill. I think you said your sister smelled. But that was a thank you from the angelic realm, facilitated by that nun. 4, hi, Sterling. The Russian moon lander just crashed. The explanations given were not believable. Were extraterrestrials who reportedly inhabit the dark side of the moon involved in stopping the mission? I get there was some extraterrestrial involvement. I get whatever was on this Russian lunar lander had a nuclear payload. Now, the nuclear payload could have been some places for power, long-term energy, but there's something about a nuclear payload on this lunar lander, Russian lunar lander. Extraterrestrials felt it was necessary to take it out. So I do see extraterrestrial involvement. 3, hi, Sterling. Do you see portable language translators being used ubiquitously in the future? Speech recognition is already getting better. How many years away will language translation technology be polished so that it is said in one language can be translated instantly and a response given can be translated instantly so that two-way communication is smooth? How many years away will this technology be fully realized so that people traveling abroad no longer have a problem talking to others? Within 5 years, this technology is actually already here. It's coming down the cost curve. There'll be supercomputer back-end technology that will be helpful in this. So the supercomputer technology will be used like in data centers, but mobile devices will have translators built in that will leverage also that technology. So within 5 years, it'll actually be built into almost every mobile device available: watches, portable phones, Android, iPhones, Apple iPhones, iOS. Yeah, they say within 5 years, it'll all be here. And number two and number one, we always take notes before the show. So let's get into it. And I'll read you back from my notes. Number two, do you see anything coming up this week? New 45 court filings to fight the Georgia indictment and other federal trials. New lunar landing tests being conducted by several space agencies like China. So something coming up with China, they're showing me. And I see several new missile tests coming out of North Korea. In addition, I do see expansion, or let's say a real bold move by Ukraine to start to shut down and push back on Russian expansion. And along with what's going on with the pushback, and they'll be coming up here, the pushback by the Wagner Group members on what's going on in Russia, we're going to start to see a turn coming here this week, a really significant push by Ukraine and other external forces in Russia. They're going to start to help turn the war around. So congratulations, to those involved in that. The end of the Ukraine war can't come fast enough. We're going to see some good progress here, along with more F-16s coming into Ukraine. Absolutely. And number one, do you have anything your guides want to share? Share all of your knowledge on spirituality and ensure it is coming from a place of love. Do not worry about the immediate reception or reactions from people. You will help those that need the help the most. So on that note, that concludes the show being recorded for Sunday, August 27th, 2023. As always, you need to reach me. Go to sterlingpsychicmedium.com. Look at the book session tab. Again, I think there's some openings being shown right now by my team in November and December. And I'm doing a show with Linda G., the Comanche Psychic, also on Sunday. That'll be on Linda's channel. And for the time being, I want to send out a little goodwill and tremendous love to you and your families. As always, take care. I'll see you again very soon.